Welcome and welcome back to my series, The Cards Behind the Crime. I am Gina and I am diving into crime stories through the lens of the cards. And in this episode of The Cards Behind the Crime, I am looking at the story of Ajike Owens, the woman here in Florida who was shot by her neighbor, Susan. And so, just based off their birth cards, Ajike was the Ace of Spades and Susan is the Five of Clubs. Now, if you know anything about the cards, the Five of Clubs Venus card for life is the Ace of Spades. But how interesting, even a Venus connection can bring forth what we saw play out a couple years ago. So, in this series, I'm going to be looking at the age Ajike was and the age Susan was when this incident took place. I'll be looking at it from the plate of their age. So we'll bounce from her plate, Ajike's plate. She was 35 and she is the Ace of Spades. And Susan was 58 and she is the Five of Clubs. So I'll be bouncing between those plates and we'll be looking at both from their birth card spreads and their planetary ruling card spreads so we can kind of just see energetically what was playing out when this incident took place. Something else I want to mention, on the day that the shooting happened, it was June 2nd, 2023, which June 2nd is the Two of Spades card. And what I find really interesting about that is the Two of Spades transformation card is the Five of Clubs, and that was Susan's card. So it's just interesting that the day that the incident happened, that it was also very much connected. And from the spirit spread or the pure spread, whichever you would like to call it, the Ace of Spades and the Two of Spades have that moon connection, the moon sun connection. So just very interesting, just even from the day that it took place, what was actually playing out for them both. Now, let's look at it from the plates so we can dive deeper into the cards behind the crime. Okay, so we are on age plate 35, and this is how old Ajike was when she was killed. Now, she is the Ace of Spades. She was born January 13th, and her planetary ruling card is the Nine of Clubs. So I'm going to look at it from both of those spreads. Now, the Ace of Spades is sitting here, and this is Jupiter, Neptune. So she was actually displacing the Ace of Diamonds card for her year. And what I find really interesting in this spread now, when I look at where the Nine of Clubs is sitting in the house of the Four of Clubs. So these are her two energies at age 35, the age that she was when she was killed. Now, the Ace of Diamonds, can be a very powerful card of like new beginnings, new opportunities, new investments, new business, new projects, etc. So, in this year for her, she may have started something new. I'm not sure when they moved or where, how long the whole incident had been playing out that led up to her being shot. But what I did find interesting is the Pluto card for her that year was the Two of Spades. Now, what is the Two of Spades? Partnerships, friendships, connections, other people, and it's in Pluto. So just from that, I can see where there may have been arguing, disputes, intense interactions with others just based on that two in Pluto for her. And the reward card to that is the Jack of Spades, which can also be like, a mask, an initiation. We know it's the trickster. It can be someone of deceit, deception, which essentially you can see that is kind of what happened, and even how the woman Susan tried to play like self-defense, right? And so that you can even see like someone isn't telling the truth, and obviously Ajike isn't here to give her side of the story, so we only are getting one side of it, which obviously you can see she didn't, that Susan was not telling the truth in her defense of she was, scared for her life, right? Um, anyways, so with those two cards, just right off the rip, you can kind of see like deception and dealing with other people, and even probably throughout up that led up to that, that woman calling the police and making accusations about the children, and even Ajike as well. So very interesting to look at it from that lens. Now, she had the five of spades in Mars, which can make someone very intense, and you can tell she was probably, looking out for the kids and, very protective of the children. And the two of spades is sitting in the house of the queen of spades naturally, so that ace of diamonds can have like that motherly, even interestingly enough, the queen of spades can kind of represent like an older woman, and that is what her Pluto card was displacing, or sitting in the house of, like the older woman queen of spades card, and that is who essentially took her life. So very telling, just from that. Right now, the nine of clubs, her planetary ruling card, like I said, sitting in the house of the four of clubs. What I noticed about this one is the seven of spades was in Pluto. So it's interesting because the lady Susan was claiming, like, fears of this, but really AJ may have had fears of dealing with that neighbor, dealing with the repercussions, just the intensity of, someone making claims or threats, right? And then on top of it, the two of clubs being that result card, this can lead to arguing, debates, words being exchanged, etc. Now, what I find also very interesting, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, the queen at that queen of spades being that Jupiter card, you can see she as a mother was trying to protect, watch out for, and probably stand up for her children. The Jack of Hearts was crowning this nine of clubs. This is a very strong card of children and wanting to protect children. And that is what she was essentially doing, right? Now, something I want to point out, the Susan, she is the five of clubs, and her planetary ruling card, because she's on the cusp, her planetary ruling card would be the ten of spades, since she's kind of on that cusp of Cancer and Leo. So I don't know what time she was born. I don't know if she, aligns with the Cancer sun or a Leo sun, but I'm going to give her the ten of spades as the planetary ruling card, just because of where her birthday falls. So, but what I find very interesting about, even though this is not Susan's age, this is AJ's age, the Susan is the five of clubs, and that card was sitting here in the house of the eight of hearts, which had a queen in Mars, which can sometimes pose as, arguments with women, right? Whenever there's a queen in Mars, there can be hostile feminine energy, arguing, etc. And the queen of clubs can definitely be a more hostile verbal energy, and that is what the five of clubs, even though this is not Susan's age, but this is when I always look at the whole plate, and I'm going to find her card just to kind of see how maybe AJ was even seeing that five of clubs energy be presented. And as you can see, arguing with women, they argued over, the kids playing in the yard, etc. But what's also interesting is that five of clubs not only has that queen of clubs as Mars, but Jupiter, Saturn, king of clubs can sometimes present as taking the law into their own hands, being aggressive even. And then that five of clubs has the king of spades in Uranus, which the king of spades, at least from the research I have done in a lot of these crime situations, tends to show up when a murder or a killing takes place. And that five of clubs has that king of spades in Uranus on plate 35. And it kind of happened suddenly, abrupt, out of the blue, and that's very, telling with the king of spades being in Uranus. So, and also let's see, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto was the two of hearts. So that two energy, even from the five of clubs perspective on plate 35, where remember AJ had a two in Pluto. Well, the five of clubs on this plate has a two in Pluto. And the result card was the nine of spades, a death, ending, completion type of energy. So even though I'm not looking at like Susan's age, just as AJ's age, and you can even see how that is playing out through the when you look at the whole plate, right? So very interesting, very telling, very terribly sad situation, and those the children who lost their mother senselessly, like it did not need to happen at all, and what they've been through is just so it's very very sad. And I hope that doing this just shows it from another lens of what energetically was kind of playing out for both AJ and Susan. But this is 35. This is AJ's plate. This is how old she was when she was killed. I don't know the exact period she was in. Let me think about this. It was June. So she was probably in her Mars, January, February, March, April, May, June. No, maybe Jupiter period. I don't want to guess. I would need to look at it, but I want to, let's see if it may have been Mars, may have been Jupiter. Sometimes you find the eight of diamonds, they have the ace of spades in Pluto for life. They call it sometimes the secret assassin type of card. And she had that as her Jupiter card. And she had that five of spades as her Mars card, which can, what may have been perceived as aggression with that five of spades in Mars, or restlessness or impatient, she was merely probably just being more protective of her children because of the incidents that led up to the shooting. So very interesting to look at it from her perspective at the age that she was when this took place. Now, the 58 is how old Susan was, and she is the five of clubs. So now I'm going to scroll quickly to plate 58. And like I said, I'm going to look at it from the five of clubs and the 10 of spades, right? Okay. So the five of clubs is here and was sitting in the house of the four of spades. So she had, four of spades is a card of like maybe even feeling like you're protecting something. Fours can feel stuck, can feel complacent, rigid. This usually is a card of great health, great recovery, satisfaction, hard work, discipline. But on the low side, she, there could have been, where she felt trapped, she felt stuck, she felt like she couldn't get out in any kind of way, and maybe she had some fears. Seven of spades as her Mercury card, she was allowing fear to take over and drive why she did what she did is kind of how I can see that, right? She also had a nine of diamonds pushing her, so there was some kind of like ending, completion, having to let go. But when that seven of spades on the low side in Mercury, because it is your thoughts, your beliefs, your ideas, the words, the things you may hear, and on the low side, that is literally the card of faith or fear. There's no room for both. So obviously she was very much coming from that low side of fear, and maybe she felt trapped and could, and fearful, not justifying by any means what she did, but I'm just showing it from what maybe she was experiencing, right? Now, Mercury, Venus, Mars, four of spades. So even more, maybe again, in her mind, she felt she couldn't come out of her house. And for whatever reason, kids playing in the yard made her feel fearful for whatever reasons. And that four of spades being here in Mars, just, challenging karma card, King of Clubs, taking the law into your own hands. Jupiter was the nine of clubs for her. So, an ending, a graduation, a completion. But what I find really interesting is her Neptune card for that year. And she would have been turning 59 in July, and this happened in June. So she was still 58, and she probably was in her Neptune period or getting very close to it when this happened. If she wasn't, she was in her Uranus period. And if you remember, that two of spades was the Pluto card for AJ, and it was also the Uranus card for Susan, and her Neptune card was the ace of spades. So that you can see the maybe the arguing, the not listening, the not cooperating to, and then the ace of spades being Neptune. Maybe she didn't, was perceiving AJ as a threat in because she couldn't see the intentions clearly, or was delusional about it as well, or in her mind, because again, this seven of spades on a low side can almost be like, very, like if you're on that fear, it almost can be like you're seeing things, hearing things that aren't there. You're operating from a very fearful place. And again, she, like I said, tried to justify, she was self-defense, but it's really hard to kind of like see that. So again, you can kind of see that two of spades, that ace of spades, the six of clubs being Pluto. Again, there's a lot of like stuck energy. Even her, what is that? That's the reward. Cosmic lesson was the nine of hearts. Cosmic moon was the five of spades. So when you add all these energies together, there was like, again, this restlessness maybe for her, impulsiveness. She acted upon emotion and did something that, you obviously cannot take back or redo. And the consequences was you took a mother away from her children over kids playing in a yard, So again, I'm trying to see this, from just the lens of the cards and personal feelings aside, even though as a mother and you kind of are like, it didn't need to go this far. But again, just let's stick to the cards. So with that five of clubs, again, and even what's crowning that five of clubs, that two of diamonds. So you can see there a lot of maybe back and forth, and the low side of twos can act upon fear, control, trying to control others, etc. And again, you can see she was definitely coming from the lower side of that. Now, what's even more telling is when I look at the planetary ruling card displacing a two, and again, on the low side, twos can, show arguing, fear, control, debating, etc. The Venus card, eight of clubs, so stuck, could have been very stuck even more, with that, because remember that four of spades maybe felt stuck, felt trapped, couldn't, escape whatever she thought was happening. And then though, her Mars card was the nine of diamonds, the direct, but when you look at the vertical Mercury, vertical Venus, vertical Mars, king of spades. And again, that murder, that taking someone's life, again, to kind of like, the low side of the God card is the other side of that. So she had that in Mars. And remember, in AJ's spread on plate 35, she had that queen, the five of clubs had that queen, the woman, a feminine energy. And now even on Susan's plate at 58, when this happened, she had the Mars card, king of spades, vertical. Queen of diamonds, a queen of feminine energy as a Mercury. So again, there may have been a lot of back and forth, etc. Look at all the queen energy. Even the Pluto card to that 10 of spades was the nine of clubs. Queen of hearts, the mother, and a nine, an ending. Like you ended a mother's life here, right? And this is from her planetary ruling card spread, not her birth card spread. From the birth card spread, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, a mother, queen of hearts. What was the vertical? The seven of hearts. Okay, so Mercury, Venus, Mars was the ace of clubs. Oh, I'm sorry, Jupiter was the seven of hearts, king of diamonds. So she, with that king of diamonds possibly, with that not possibly being the vertical Saturn card, that's a one-eyed king. So she wasn't, she was only seeing it one way. She wasn't able to see it. And then on top of sitting in a house of a four of spades, maybe feeling stuck, feeling trapped, and she couldn't open up her eyes to maybe a different way, a different way of handling things. She was hyper focused, and again, took a lot of that king energy. Sometimes can, try to take things into their own hands, matters into their own hands, think they're the law, think that they have that power and that control over someone else, and she, exerted her control through, what she did through her actions. So very interesting to even look at it from that lens. Even the 10 of spades, right? If the Pluto card was the 9 of clubs and the result card was the Queen of Hearts, the cosmic lesson was the 2 of spades. So there is that, like, she really was supposed to learn how to communicate, and without maybe arguing, without friction. That was her lesson. But instead she allowed the fear and the control, take over. And even the cosmic moon was the ace of spades to her from the planetary ruling at Neptune from her birth card spread. So very interesting to see even how the ace of spades showed up on Susan's plate. Even more telling, the ace of spades, even though this isn't AJ's plate, but again, we're going to look at it from the whole plate. Yes, the ace of spades was Susan's Neptune card, but if I look at just the ace of spades on here, right, it had the 9 of hearts in Mars, which again, a 9 can be an ending, the loss of love, right, with that 9 of hearts. They had the King of Clubs in Pluto, which again can present as like the law, taking matters into your own hands, control, dominance, etc. What's interesting, if you remember on plate 35, AJ was actually displacing the Ace of Diamonds. Well, that's the result card here on this plate, and this is from Susan's lens as well. So very interesting, and that's actually displacing the 7 of Spades, that faith or fear. So again, it's very, I feel or can see like the Susan lady was just coming from this low side of the 7 of Spades. Maybe again, she felt trapped or stuck, and she, that was her only out, was to, you know, take like end that woman's life, which unnecessarily, if she could have just, had a conversation, maybe things could have been different. But here you can even see how it kind of lined up and even played out for both of them through both their different ages and at the time that this took place. And again, remember the day that it happened, June 3rd, is a 2 of Spades day. And where is that 2 of Spades again? The Uranus card to Susan. On AJ's plate, it was her Pluto card. And what do we know about Pluto? It can be a death energy. And that was AJ's Pluto card that year as well. And so for whatever reason, their communications and conversations, rather than being able to kind of see it from each other's point of view or work it out, that Susan took it into her own hands and came from this space of fear, control, dominate, wanting to kind of take matters into her own hands, and maybe used "I was afraid, I feared for my life" as justifying what she did. And it's interesting because it was from a closed door. And I always look at fours as like you're behind four walls. You're in the four walls of either your home, your heart, your mind, your values, your health, your work. And so with that, and then that also, that 4 being her Mars card, which was displacing the 8 of Spades, which can also be a bully, forceful, abrupt, intense, especially in Mars. And on top of the King of Clubs was also the challenging karma card. So again, you can kind of see this was really activated for her, and why, or at least why she justifies what she did. So anyways, and it's just really telling to that 10 of Spades having that King of Spades as a vertical Mars, and the 9 of Diamonds being the direct Mars. So again, an ending, and maybe in her mind, she figured this was how I can end all this. And even though that was probably not the right thing to do. So yeah, it is a very unfortunate situation. My heart goes out to AJ's family, her children. I do this just to kind of show a energetic way of looking at things. And since we can look at the plates, and it's easier to see than maybe like a natal chart or a transit chart astrologically, The cards can give us like what was playing out. I don't justify any of the actions. Again, a mother lost her life for really, unfortunately, no reason other than someone coming from a space of fear and control and whatever other things she may have thought or felt. It doesn't, justify taking someone's life. A young, very young woman who had so much more life to live, and now the trauma that her children will experience or have for the rest of their life. But this is another way of looking at situations and how we can kind of unpack it energetically and what each person may have been experiencing for them. Now, there's a whole nother layer of doing this by taking the five of clubs and the ace of spades and getting a composite, and we can actually see what energetically their cards bring, because their relationship, when you take two cards and you do a composite, you get a card for that relationship. So when I take the ace of spades and the five of clubs, I'm going to get, let me see, 58, the six of hearts. That is their composite. So I can even look at it from that space. The six of hearts, this is Susan's age. We'll stay here for just a second. Was displacing the ten of spades, which is her planetary ruling card. And again, just in general, the six of hearts sits Mars naturally, that's its house. And the six of hearts is funny enough, it is the card of the peacemaker. And maybe if this could have been a different outcome, they could have came to peace, they could have came to an understanding, and really, came from more love and not anger. Maybe the situation would have been different. The six of hearts, when it does feel like things are not fair, it can be very aggressive, it can be very stubborn, on the low side. So their composite being that six of hearts, and it's sitting here in the house of the ten of spades. Again, she kind of acted, from that aggression, because even the ten of spades can be a very powerful overcoming card. And even the six of hearts, and at least from on the plate that Susan was the age 58, the Pluto card was a queen of diamonds, women, feminine energy. So even the cosmic moon was a queen of spades. The Mars card to the six of hearts was the queen of clubs. So I mean, wow, you can see that strong feminine energy that was just, unfortunately operating from the lower side. Now, real quick, let me go back to 35 now that I know their composite. And y'all, I do this in like real time. I didn't like do much research prior besides their birthdays. So, and I did watch the Netflix episode about this situation. Extremely, very, very sad, in real time, how they, showed everything. So, trigger warning if you do watch it. Okay, now, wow. This is 35. This is AJ's age when she was killed. Look at where the six of hearts is sitting, in the house of the ace of spades, which is AJ's card. And if you know anything about the ace of spades, it is the card of death and rebirth. It's a death card. And in this case, we saw that. So, and what was, let's see, Mercury, Venus, nine of hearts, Mars. There's that Mars, four of spades energy. Wow. Because that's what Susan's Mars card was. And again, this is from their composite, the six of hearts. Let's see, Jupiter is the jack of hearts, the kids, you know what I mean? The ten of diamonds was the Saturn, the Uranus was the nine of diamonds, the Neptune was the ace of clubs, and look at that, the queen of diamonds. So, wow, at 58, the six of hearts on that plate, Pluto card, queen of diamonds, and on this plate 35, AJ's plate, the Pluto card to the six of hearts, queen of diamonds. Wow, that's very telling. And even the cosmic moon here, nine of clubs, to that six of hearts. So again, you see a lot of nine, you see a lot of those queens, the ending of a feminine, the loss of a feminine, the loss of a mother. right? The loss of a mother from both plates, from both sides. Very, very telling. So, anyways, um, I thank you for watching this. I know these can be very more sensitive and triggered things to look at, and I do this just to bring insight, to show you what was playing out, to not give, any justification or anything. Try to taking the emotions out of it and just presenting what was playing out from both sides so that you can kind of see it and connect it. My heart does go out to AJ's family, her children, and I hope and pray that they find peace, and that we can work out differences without taking such extreme measures. Again, with that, like two of spades, you can see the heated energy of that. But on the high side, it's about talking it out. It's about listening to each other. It's about, respecting each other. And you can see that that was not the case in this situation, especially from Susan. And again, her coming from a lot of that fear definitely showed in how she responded and with what she did. So with that, thank you for watching my series, The Cards Behind the Crime. And I will be back doing another one from another case that I've been looking into. And I look forward to showing you from the lens of the cards how certain things can kind of play out. So have a good one. Peace.